is a tricky brand of, I guess you could call it a social science, where you attack problems instead of getting all wrapped up in them and getting extremely frustrated. You think of the situation as a game, and so you're able to get a more detached perspective and are able to find better ways to go around the problem. For instance, if you'll pay attention to the chessboard here. So, most people are familiar with the game of chess. You take each other's pieces, but you have to be careful not to have your pieces taken. That's a lot like the everyday world, where you have to get as much as you can while giving as little as possible in many situations. But it's not always as simple as you get that, because everyone wants the same thing. So sometimes it takes a little bit of trickery. For instance, if I were to put my pawn here, that could persuade my opponent to move their pawn there, because then I could have tricked them into capturing it. But if they only go here, and then I go here, they've baited me, so they can take mine. The two biggest and simplest methods of game theory are prediction and persuasion, which is either figuring out what your opponent or the other parties are going to do, or influence them in a way that makes them act more how you want them to. Anything can be a focal point for influencing, actually. If you say a word a couple times, and there's a video on this, I believe, if you say a word with an emphasis, then some people will get distracted by that word and the emphasis, and so will think of it even while they're trying to think of something else. So, I have designed a couple small activities to help everyone get a general grip on how to use these. The rules of the game: scissors beats paper, paper beats rock, rock beats scissors. Scissors beats lizard, lizard beats paper, paper beats Spock. Spock beats rock, rock beats lizard, lizard beats Spock. Okay, so have at least 3 rounds against your opponent. Announce what you're going to do before the actual move, and see how many you can win.
Yes.
Dang it!
Yeah, she won too.
And I won.
You won, yes.
Okay. I did lizard and he did Spock.
Yes. Okay. Because lizards eat Spock. I'm gonna go scissors.
Scissors? Okay, I'm going to go paper.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Shoot.
Ready?
Just a second. Yes.
Rock.
1, 2, 3. I lost.
It's still.
You lied to me. Why would you do this to me?
I'll do paper.
Scissors.
We'll go with scissors. Just
Scissors?
It's traditional.
Alright. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Wait, no.
No, I win.
Again. So it's 4-1. That's, wow.
Alright, so now we're going to repeat this game, except with one big difference. The two of you will agree on one person, and that one person will say what they are going to do. The other person doesn't say at all. So that way, you only have the idea of what your opponent's going to do, but you have to completely guess at what you're going to do in response. So, let's try that.
Okay.
And now you don't have to say it. Okay. Are you ready to go?
I have 2 wins now.
I have like 4.
You have like 25.
That's not fair.
I'm gonna do
scissors.
No!
No!
Just leave.
I won.
No! You didn't!
Yes, I did. I did scissors. You did paper.
I'm really bad at paper. And you're like the Play-Doh scissors.
I do not like Play-Doh scissors. And
You are Play-Doh scissors.
You're gonna choose rock.
I select rock.
Okay, just second.
Okay.
So,
I select rock as my weapon.
okay. Rock, paper, scissors.
Again.
I will go
Paper.
paper. Alright. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Guys, so you've tried two different versions of this game. One where you both know what the other is trying to convince you of. One where only one side knows. So, I'm sure you could figure out the general meaning behind it. Let's discuss and figure out what the deeper meanings may be.
You have to constantly expect that the other person is lying and that you yourself is lying. And that you have to expect that the other person knows that you are lying. So then you have to use the move that they think that you're going to not use to do. So then you beat them.
Unless you're playing me.
Please yes.
So like if I pick rock,
But what would happen if you said something, your opponent says something, and you were actually telling the truth, or they were? What would your tactic be then? Someone else, please.
Choose something that both would not kill you by getting what they have, but also choosing something that would protect you.
But you don't necessarily know what they're going with in either game.
Well, from
There's something
Going
they can
off.
persuade you of. Like Play-Doh scissors. That was a great bit that could stick in your mind and so act as a focal point. So you might be more likely to choose scissors or rock. So Kyle, what was your general impression of this activity? What do you think you've learned?
That if you're playing a game like this, there is no real way to make sure that you win. In particular, since we're both using techniques that are intended to either judge what the opponent is doing or push them in a certain direction, it's nearly impossible to run through all of the possibilities in order to determine what your winning move is.
Absolutely. And that's where some of the more advanced bits of game theory come in. But I'd say this was a decent introduction, wouldn't you?
Yeah, good enough introduction for most people.